You know, it's basically what I do. I click a button and see what comes out.
Okay.
But mate, it's a pleasure. Thank you for
Thank you
making
so
time for
much.
me.
Thank you.
You know, you're a bit of a weapon. You know, I guess you have to tell the people how much of a savage you are.
Well, I appreciate it. I I competed in CrossFit, or I started competing in CrossFit about 5 years ago, and I switched to Olympic weightlifting in 2019. Had a pretty big improvement and made Team USA in 2020, and then did Worlds and Pan Ams in 2021. And now I'm just continuing to try to keep making Team USA. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I went to college for weightlifting, but now I go specifically to try to go into physical therapy school after I get my bachelor's. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much it. And
Absolute savage. You know, did weightlifting for a little bit, made you a Team USA, went the worlds. You're like, wait, hold on a minute. Like, you know, it's not that easy, team. You know, like she did actually work friggin' hard.
Yes, it was an amazing experience. I had never been out of the country, so being able to represent my country, at places at a country like Uzbekistan where I'd never have a reason to go there, and it was just an incredible experience, and that I will definitely cherish forever. And I hope that I'll be able to continue to make those teams next year. Worlds next year will be in Mexico, so that yeah, that'll be cool. I'll get to have a lot of my family in Mexico be able to watch me. So
How was Uzbekistan?
it was amazing. It wasn't anything like I had expected. I think the thing that freaked me out the most was like in countries outside of the United States, they don't really have like lanes in traffic or like I guess the UK definitely does, but even like Colombia, because I went there too, like they're kind of just all like driving on top of each other, and like we'd be in this big bus and there'd be cars like driving under the bus. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is insane. I'm getting anxiety driving everywhere.
Yeah, we like to do our own thing, you know.
Yeah.
You know, if
That's
you're in the way,
crazy.
like shame on you. We're just gonna drive through you.
Yeah, no, I drive through Texas when people are, or in San Antonio when people are like that. And I'm like freaking out. I gotta pull over and like call my dad. Like,
Yeah, these people. Oh,
yeah.
that's unreal, man. Like, I guess the biggest question that I would have as a fellow barbell nerd is like, what's the biggest lesson you've learned from the barbell?
Oh man. What's incredible about weightlifting is, yes, it's just a sport, but the things that you learn in it really do apply to life if you allow it to be. I think in CrossFit, it was so easy to just work as hard as you can, just like throw yourself into the workout until you completely almost kill yourself, sort of thing. And um, with the transition of weightlifting, you really had to find the balance between, yes, you have to work your butt off, but you also have to be really deliberate in everything that you do. Like um, every single part of the lift is a but very precise. So, taking that into my everyday life has been a huge help. And also like learning that in weightlifting, just there has to be deliberate practice in everything that you do. You can't just walk through it and go through the motions. That you have to think thoroughly through everything. You have to um, practice everything deliberately, like I was saying. So that's definitely been a big one. And I think the one that I'm barely starting to figure out after 3 years of this sport is like the importance of consistency.
Mm.
Um, like I had a really bad habit the first year or two of weightlifting of I would get at my best strength, I get like at my peak strength, and I'd almost get satisfied in a way. And then I wouldn't try as hard on my accessories, or I wouldn't do them in general, or I wouldn't stay on top of my food anymore because I was like happy, I guess, with where I was at. Um, so learning the importance of like just because you feel like you've arrived somewhere doesn't mean you've actually arrived. Like you got to keep pushing past those things, and that's where the real growth comes from. So, yeah, that's definitely the two biggest things that I've learned, and which crazy, like they've helped me so much taking into life, but especially now with like my faith and everything, those two things apply so much. So, it's been really nice, and I've been really fortunate to be able to be in a sport that really correlates to life in general.
Mm. Yeah, it's so beautiful, man. Like I love the sport. I like working out, anything
Hmm.
fitness, I'm in,
Yeah.
But weightlifting is so special, it's you look at it and you're like, oh, is that all you're doing? Like kind of six lifts. You're like,
Yeah.
yeah, pretty much that's kind of what
Yeah.
we do. Yeah. And you're like, oh, that's nothing. But then at the same time, it's also really complex. And then at the
Yes.
same time, like the margin for error is so small,
Yes.
and I think it really does translate to life. And I just love hearing what people gain from it. It's like, okay, great. You want it, you go in, you throw some weight above your head, you go home. That's
Yeah.
great. You're a little bit fitter and more of a badass individual. But what are you taking out of the gym? And that's where the real progress lies, right?
Yes, exactly. And like on top of that, if you only allow weightlifting to be your entire life, if you are only in the gym all the time, you only care about the time you spend in there, like that's not going to get much better. You got to you got to get the things outside of the gym all aligned and like improving in there. We have good mental health, good emotional health in there, and that's honestly like what when I've been now specifically where those things are in order and those things are like improving. That's when my training is improving. So
Mm.
and that's kind of what this whole podcast is about, I assume, is like bridging the gap between mental health and physical health.
Yeah, man, it's been one hell of a journey, and I think I really feel like I'm in a position of privilege in a way of being able to hear people from so many different avenues of life,
Hmm.
like tell a story of something that they've done or something that they've witnessed in whatever they do, right? Like I had
Yeah.
a conversation yesterday about with a lady who was a journalist about perimenopausal,
Hmm.
and I'm like, okay, great. Like, I'm not going to know what that's like, right? Like, I'm a 26-year-old dude. I'm going to have no idea. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, this is fantastic, because you then can understand that this wider thing of mental health, physical health, spiritual health, whatever you want to go down is actually all linked. You're like,
Yes.
oh, okay, this makes
Yeah.
more sense now. Maybe we need to fill every bucket rather than just like throwing all our eggs into one basket and be like, yeah, I'm gonna be fine, because
Yeah.
I've done it many times. I get in the gym, I'm kicking the living shit out of myself, and everything's going great. And the next thing you know, you break and you got nothing left.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? You're like, oh,
Yes.
okay, like this is gonna be pretty difficult. So yeah,
Yeah.
I really appreciate you saying that. And I know a lot
Oh,
of
of
people will
course.
too.
Yes. And I even heard, I think it was on your podcast with Brittany, like your plans for the future. Man, I just got to really commend you for that. That's incredible. Like a lot of people have big dreams, but not very many people have big dreams that, are to help other people. So that's amazing. And from growing up, when I was younger, I didn't even know, and like I didn't have any access to like sports or anything. I didn't know those were a thing like intramural sports. So the outreach that you're trying to do with children specifically is like super admirable.
I appreciate that a lot, man. Like, I think everybody should have access to it. I really, 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 really deeply believe in equal opportunity. Like, I don't really care where you're from, who you are, your ability. I just don't really care. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, how do we get you to a start line? And then that's up to you then.
yeah,
Like if you wanna work hard and go down there, great, because you have the opportunity now. But
yeah.
I've met so many kids, man, that like I mentally I go back to a kid quite a lot, and I was like a teaching assistant, PE teaching assistant, I should say,
Mhm,
in a inner city school in Manchester, right? And we had
mhm.
to walk through metal detectors to get into school, you name it. Like
Yeah.
it was a fantastic school to be in, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Uh, and I go to this kid, right, and he comes up to me and was like, "Oh, we just start talking nonsense," and he basically
Mhm,
explains that he had a passion for running, right? And I'm
mhm,
like, "Oh, this is great! Like, why don't you join a run club or something?" "Oh, we don't have it." I was like, "Oh, is there one around the city? There's bound to be." Like, I'm from Manchester
mhm,
as well, right? So I'm like, "Oh, there's
mhm.
definitely some clubs around." He's like, "Yeah, but I don't have any shoes, like
Yeah.
any running shoes." I'm like, "All right, yeah, sound like okay. How are we gonna figure this out?" And conversation goes a little bit further, and I figure out he's actually an orphan, right, and living with
Mhm,
quote unquote his auntie, which is not his auntie,
mhm.
but it's just they put it down so they don't have to go through the legal system. And I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, okay, sound. How do I help this kid? Because you know he's asking for it. And I'm like, all right, well, you got a field, right? And he's like, yeah, I got a field. It's like, okay, we got dinner time. So we got an hour. He's like, yeah. I was like, why don't you use 30 of those minutes and go run around the field?
Yeah.
And it was so cool because like I could see him and he did it. Like I actually saw him just legging it around this field. And
Mhm,
I don't know what happened to him. Like this was a long time ago now,
mhm,
probably, I don't know, like 10 years ago, 12 years ago or
mhm.
something. And I'm just like, I really hope you did something with this, man. Like
Yeah,
running around the field in your school uniform, in your school shoes, because you don't have any other opportunity. And I'm like, something's
yeah,
got to change here. We have to do something.
yeah. Yeah, and then, like, we even talk about, like, as athletes, we're always trying to, um, get that 1% better, so we kinda look at it like, "Okay, we have to improve our mental health so our physical abilities
Mhm.
can improve," but we forget that the general public is like, no, that to improve their mental health, they have to, like, actually, exercise their physical health because, so it's crazy how it all correlates.
Yeah, like it really, really is. That's a quite interesting point that actually, and
Mhm.
something that I've not necessarily spent a lot of time thinking about of the
Yeah,
general public, GPP,
yeah,
need to work on their physical health for their
yeah,
mental health, right? And
yeah.
performance wise is the other way around. I'm like, wow, yeah, okay,
Yeah, it's
that's a
like
great
it's like
point.
the yeah, it's like the extremes opposite side of like the spectrum because I know for me, like I have a grandmother who's in her 60s, like my dad never really like worked out or anything and they really do struggle with just like um not anything serious, but like really like grogginess and everything and just like self-confidence and stuff, like all things that I know that have like that fitness has helped me tremendously with and like just
Mhm.
having like an overall like uh upbeat personality, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah, you definitely feel it, right? Like if you're not
Mhm.
as physically fit, whatever that is like for yourself as an individual, right? If you're not as physically fit, you definitely start slipping mentally.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can speak for myself, and I think I speak for a lot of guys as well. As like I usually end up going down a vice.
Hmm.
I'm like I'm wasting time on something. I'm like the alcohol is calling me a little bit too much, right? Or I just want to eat and just lie down or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Like Netflix, like whatever. It doesn't really matter. And I'm like, whoa, 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 Alex, like what's going on here? Like these are all like basically things to numb you. I was like, why are you trying
Yeah.
to numb yourself? Where you running away from? And
Yeah.
usually it always gets back to, oh, you've been like half-assing your workouts and you don't feel physically great. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
I kind of need to self-suffer and kick myself in the face with some weight. But
Bit of a wake up call. Yeah, definitely like I correlate that a lot more to my thing to my spiritual walk with God just because there's like a lot of distractions. You mentioned social media, like that's a big one. And um, just a lot of things that, like you said, it's not just you mindlessly, scrolling or you mindlessly going to these things. It's like you're subconsciously like going or consciously going to these things for like temporary satisfaction and everything. And that can be really dangerous if you don't address the root of it. So yeah.
so talk to me about the faith stuff. I'm fascinated because
Yes.
personally I'm not religious.
Yeah.
But I love to speak to people who are.
Mm.
If you're like Alex, give me a blanket term. What are you? I'll be like, you know, kind of
Yeah.
blonde. No, but I'd probably say more on the term of like spirituality type side.
Mhm.
But like, hey, I'm fucking down to learn from anybody. You know what I mean? Like, this
Mhm.
is great. So talk to me about it. What does it mean to you?
Well, first off, I really appreciate you being so open about it because, a lot of people just aren't even willing to hear. But at the end of the day, like our own personal testimonies in our life, like nobody can take that away from us. So I appreciate you hearing me out. But yeah, I was going into this like, okay, thinking about it is important, mental health definitely affects physical health and vice versa within sports. And I've always been aware of that. But up until I want to say like a few months ago, because I had been Christian my whole life. I put that in air quotes because like I don't know if you ever heard the term. It's always been like lukewarm. It's been where like I was trying to live in like the grace and the promises of God, but still trying to do things of this world. Meaning like sinful things, I guess you could say. Like just doing everything like out of selfishness. And that's the difference, is like a people truly living for God and like being a true Christian really is all about like putting others above yourself, putting God above yourself, and always honoring people and God in everything that you do. And it's just like living a very selfless life. So that's the route that I started going 3 months ago. And I didn't do it. Well, so it all started because I injured my wrist pretty bad. And I had a bit of an identity crisis because I couldn't train. I wasn't able to lift heavy or anything. And I had to find the root of that. I'm like, wow, I really, really identify myself in this whole weightlifting thing. Like, I made Team USA and everything. I have like X amount of followers or whatever. And I'm like, wow, I really see all my worth and value and how well I do in the sport or how heavy I lift on the bar. And that was really concerning to me because I'm like, if I were to get injured again, or like this injury would never be able to heal, like I wouldn't have anything, like going for me, sort of thing. Um, so that was a big wake up call. And I realized pretty fast that my injury was like a blessing in disguise. It was God forcing me to like sit down and reevaluate my life, and um, forced me to sit down to try to rebuild my kingdom and my name and his name, um, and no longer living this life for myself. And man, I was gonna say earlier, like I didn't do it out of the hopes of like, oh, I'm gonna get better at weightlifting, like I by all glory to God, and I'm gonna hit PRs. Like that was not the intention at all. It was just because I had like a supernatural like what is it called, encounter with God. And he really just showed me like um not like perfectly, but like the plans that he were to have for my life, that he's been longing to be in a relationship with me, sort of thing. Like he showed me how powerful he is, which is an incredible experience. I pray for everybody to experience one day. Cause like you think about it, being able to have a personal relationship with like the creator of the whole universe is insane. Like even if you don't believe, even if someone weren't to believe it, I'm like, wouldn't that be, I don't know, it'd be super cool. But and so that's what I started to do. And I just completely threw my life. Like I laid every part of my life down at the feet of Jesus. And like I said, it wasn't my intention to get better at weightlifting. And it did get harder before it got better. But like when I figured out how to truly honor God in everything that I do, and especially in the gym, because that's the hardest part, is like we all go into the gym and we're there to better ourselves. We're there for selfish reasons, I guess you could say. We want to be better weightlifters. Sometimes we don't take the time, most of the time, to like talk to other people because we're there to stay focused on ourselves. That's our time in the gym. But when I started to learn the balance of like, no, this is just like God put me in this place to be a light, and I can reach out to people, or if they were to come up to me, taking the time to talk to them, taking the time to spread God's word, because that's what I'm called to do. Um, Man, I can't, it was such a fast turnaround. It went from like not even 5 months or 5 weeks ago, I was missing like 70, 80%. And I was prepping for the American Open finals. And I was like, oh no, this is bad. Like, I don't think I'm going to be able to compete. And like I said, when everything started finally to click and like God was showing me things left and right, and I was actually applying those things to my life, like it made a complete turnaround. Like it was like 1 week of like solid building, and then the next week it was like PRs after PRs after PRs, and like it just kept growing. And it wasn't just like the physical growth that you could see. It was like, I noticed it, and even my entire team noticed it. Like my demeanor completely changed. Like I was never coachable before, and now I'm coachable. Now like I kind of change the energy and the atmosphere in the room, instead of like, in a positive way, instead of forming into it, I guess you could say. And yeah, I just like, I've always lifted with like pure anger, or like pure emotions. As a girl, we're emotional. I'll admit that. I would have like breakdowns and stuff in the gym, and like I've just learned how to truly be filled by the joy of the Lord, because He showed me that like, man, it's such a blessing just to be able to wake up in the morning. And like I'm just grateful to be here. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to spend quality time with these people, and form intimate friendships. And I've never smiled so much in my life. Like and it's a testament to what's in my heart now, because Jesus, man, he completely flipped my life around. And I'm smiling all the time. I'm like laughing all the time. And even when I went to this last competition last week, like I I only went 3 for 6, and I had some pretty bad misses. I'll have to show you my clean miss. It was pretty funny. I like fell back and hit my head and everything. But I came up, I was just laughing, like it was just so fun. And I've never been the one to compete or even train pretty happy. Like I've always been super hard on myself. Like, I'd honestly like get super upset in like an inappropriate way about like even just like a miss or stuff. But now I'm just like, like I'm just grateful to be here, and it's helped my training so much. So I'm really excited to see, where this all takes off to. And at the end of the day, like, um, people can say that being happy all the time, it can distract you. But at the end of the day, like life isn't all about weightlifting. If you're not having fun, then what's the point? You know? So
Man, that's awesome, man. And I think we need to learn to take something from people's experience of this thing that we call life, right? Even if we
yeah,
don't see eye to eye with everything, And I like learning about people's faith because I see it as that faith, right? And I
yeah,
think everybody needs to believe in something bigger than themselves, even if
yeah,
it is egotistically speaking just their legacy, right? Because when they
yeah,
die, they're planning for that. It's going to live
yeah,
on, right? And I
yeah,
think everybody needs that something beyond themselves, even if it
yeah.
is something silly like the legacy, right? And
Mhm.
I think that just keeps you going. I really do. I think it gets you through some really really dire times. It gets you through the great times because it knocks on your shoulder. Sometimes you turn around and it says, "Hey, like this is pretty good now," but
Yeah.
maybe tomorrow it's going to be a little bit difficult. And I think it keeps us going. I think humans are pretty dumb. We're pretty great, but we're pretty dumb.
Yeah,
We need that. Otherwise, we get in our heads and we end up spiraling, and usually that spiral
definitely.
goes downwards, right?
Yeah,
And so yeah, I love it. I love the whole faith stuff. Like I really believe in believe something other than yourself.
yeah,
You're not the only
definitely.
person here, man. You know.
Yeah, and that's like you mentioned, we're it's kind of like in our nature to sort of like spiral and that sort of stuff like that. That really is in my nature. Like that's just me as a person. I overthink everything.
Yeah.
So, and just being able to have this relationship with God and like actively pursuing it every day has like the best way I can explain it is like it's really silenced all of those thoughts or like casted them out of my life. I guess you could say, and like the negative ones or like the self harming ones, the self hate ones, the hate for others sort of thing. Like
Mhm.
um, it's just been incredible. Like and I think what I'm starting to like see now and what I try to tell people, like what's so amazing about it is like we can't fully express what we're going through or how we're feeling to people ever. Like it's there's just too many parts to things. There's like subconscious things that we're not even aware about. But when we talk to God, when we go into prayer, and we're trying to like think thoroughly through our feelings, trying to make a life decision or whatever, like it's just so comforting knowing that like, man, he's already thinking everything that I'm like, he already knows everything that I'm thinking. So like like I could sit here, I could say the most basic prayer, I could cry, I could like laugh, and he's like he knows what I'm saying, and like and he's gonna guide me either way. So that's been such a big weight taken off my shoulders. Like I don't have to sit on my own thoughts. I don't have to rely on my own strength. Like I'm literally relying on like God's strength. Like it's incredible. So and I don't know if you've noticed, but like on my Instagram, like it's I'm pretty vulnerable about the things that I'm gone through, and like where I'm at with my relationship with God, and I try to encourage other people to start it just because it's not easy doing that. I never wanted to be somewhat of an open book on social media for like tens of thousands of people to see, but I do it because I know the truth, like I know like what it's done in my life, and I long for other people to experience that same exact like peace and freedom and like strength that I get to experience every single day. Because man, I was like bear crawling through life before this. And like sometimes it still is a bear crawl, but now I feel like I have the strength to be able to sprint if I choose to. So
Mm. Yeah, that's major, man. And I can really relate in the sense that you're trying to get a plan and
Mhm.
You think this is the way forward, right? And even with
Yeah.
even with your jumper, right?
Mhm.
You think it's the plan, and usually every plan I've ever had has never come true.
Yeah.
You're
Man,
like,
yeah,
geez, can
like
I
I
just
said,
catch a break?
yes, like I said, I overthink everything. And my biggest mistake before, which also hurt me in weightlifting, was like I always had to have a plan like 5, 10 years in the future.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
man,
yeah.
I had that. And then I moved back to Texas and it's just like everything broke down. But I'm so incredibly grateful because it brought me to where I am now. And now for the first time, I'm able to live life because of the peace that like God's giving me. I'm able to live life not worrying about even like next month. I'm like, oh, I'm like here another day. Let's see what I
Mm,
can do.
mm.
So it's been amazing.
Yeah, peace is quite a strange and interesting concept for me, man. Like for a long, long ass time, like I did not know what that felt like, nor knew what it was. You know what I mean? It was like, maybe like a ceasefire in a war or something. Like maybe
Yeah.
like I just had no, I couldn't empathize with it. And
Yeah.
I'm one that kind of empathy is my only natural trait. So I'm like,
Right.
this is quite strange. This is a whole but once you find it, and usually that takes digging within, right? Whether it's digging
Mhm.
within and you find a relationship with God, right? Or whether it's people find digging in and finding a relationship with another religion or with
Yeah.
themselves or whatever it is, whatever works for them, right? And then you're able to create that peaceful state, and you just wow, that is quite special.
Yeah. It's it's definitely necessary to get through this
Yeah.
whole thing called life.
Yeah, we're not getting out of it alive, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Definitely.
So we might
Yeah.
as well find some peace while we're here.
Yes, exactly.
I
And that's exact oh, sorry. My
no,
bad.
no, no, no. I was just gonna say, like my granddad had a thought, basically a belief. He was very Christian as well,
Mhm.
but he had a belief that this was purgatory.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and honestly, the more I think about that, the more I'm like, you know what, you might have been onto something here, lad.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it is, but I don't know. Who knows? Well, I guess we're gonna find out at the end.
Yeah, definitely.
Boss, I got three questions.
Okay.
What's the greatest piece of life advice you've ever received?
Oh, man. This is like one of those moments where you're asked, like, "What's your favorite movie?" And then you can't think of any movies. Oh, man. Let's think. I think I have pretty short-term memory, so it's gonna be something recent. I already know it, but, like,
It's okay.
um, let's see. There's, like, a lot going through. I think so the whole when Christianity means like little Christ. So that means that like we're constantly trying to live a life as if like the life that Jesus did here on earth to the best of our abilities. Of course, we can't fully because we're like we're human. We're gonna sin. We're gonna mess up and everything. Um, but and I know it sounds silly, but one of the things that I've learned from my friend recently was like something that we always have to do in order to like live up to that name of Jesus accurately or like to the best of our abilities is never defending ourselves. And I know like that may sound weird. The people that I've talked to about it's like, what are you talking about? Like, like someone were to hit you, you're just gonna take it. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, like, you know, um, like with this whole like being open about my faith and everything on social media, like there's been quite a bit backlash. There's been a whole lot of like good things that come out of it. I've gotten to create like a Christian community within weightlifting in the States and everything, but like there's a lot of backlash, there's persecution, like there's people that are going to judge me and call me stupid, that are going to say that my testimony is wrong or anything, and learning the importance of like not defending yourself because Jesus never did that. He got persecuted too, but he always just turned the other cheek. And like um I've always been the one to like see turning the other cheek as like being weak, like you're scared to confront it, so you're just going to turn the other way, which can be the case, like that can be a motivator. But like for me, actively trying to like not defend myself and turning the other cheek in everything that I do, like that shows real strength. And um it's been really difficult to go through that. Because like I said, I have been persecuted quite a bit since this whole journey started. But um, that doing that exact thing, and like turning the other cheek and being able to be calm and like collected in situations like that, and just turn to God and let allow vengeance to be His. It's not my place. That I think that is honestly what's helped me the most with like growing my relationship more intimately with God. But yeah, that's just like that's a recent thing, but I think that was such great advice for me because my whole life I was always one to like honestly kind of pick, if I was like, yeah, let's start something right now, let's light this fire. But that's like not been the case like since I've gotten that advice, and like it's been huge because like we were talking about peace earlier, like that's also brought me like an incredible amount of peace. When you don't feed into these things, you're not bringing in more negativity or more weight in your life. So it's hard. Like I said, people kind of laugh at me because they're like, "Oh, that's like the weak thing to do," and I'm like, "No, it actually takes really a lot of strength to
Mm.
turn the other cheek and just turn the other way." And I'm like, and if people see you as weak, then like, who cares? You're just protecting yourself. And for me, I'm protecting like my relationship with God. So that's all that matters.
Mm. That's fascinating. What's the worst piece of life advice you've ever received?
The worst piece, man. So again, it's gonna be about my faith. So like the so the weird thing is about Christianity or even the Bible, it kind of contradicts like everything that the world has to say. Um, and one of the main things that I've always learned from like people, and just the world in general is like, oh, just trust your gut, trust your feelings, like whatever you're feeling, go with it. Like, like don't think, just do. That's probably like if you had to say one single line that was the worst advice, it would be don't think, just do. And so that's how I would live life for like 19 years. Was I just didn't think, I just went with what I was feeling, and it got me in a whole lot of trouble. It made me make like a lot of stupid decisions I wish that I could go back and fix. And now like walking with Christ, I'm learning that like God blessed us with a brain, and like to be able to think thoroughly through situations, through decisions, through like our feelings and everything, and like learning too that our feelings can be deceitful. They're not always true. So yeah, that advice has been very harming to me. And now that like I'm thinking thoroughly through everything, like even if I'm um, feeling something that I think may be insignificant, I still try to find the root of that feeling. Um, and always just thinking thoroughly through like, okay, I'm not going to make this decision, just because of my gut feeling or whatever. I gotta go to my parents. I gotta go to my friends that I trust. I gotta spend time in the presence of God. I gotta ask Him, what He feels about this. Ask Him to search my heart to show me things that I may be missing. And now I'm not making really stupid decisions anymore. So that's a testament to, like, the world's gonna tell you all the time, trust your feelings. Like, no, your feelings lie to you. Like, your feelings are not always true. They're gonna come and go. And just because you're sad, like a perfect example is like, I don't know if you can relate to this, but for most of my life, I would just wake up sad, like sad for no reason. Um, and so I would listen to my feelings. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to be sad today. And then I'd walk around sad all day, and the day would suck. And then it'd be like seasons of that. So it'd be like depressive seasons in my life. But now, like, if I wake up sad, I'm like, oh, that doesn't matter. I'm going to choose to be joyful. And I'm going to choose to be joyful, because God woke me up this morning, and then I'm happy all day, like it's like your feelings are such a lie. So there's no reason why you should listen to them. Of course, like they're there for a reason, but you still got to like think thoroughly through it and like find the root of all those feelings. So yeah.
Mm. What are the three words you tell your younger self?
Hmm. Okay, this might get kind of dark, but um, so I experienced some some like traumatic stuff in my childhood. I I'm not like embarrassed or anything to talk about this because it's part of my testimony, and I'm grateful that I'm like have the confidence to be able to talk about it. But I was sexually abused as a younger kid by someone of the same gender, and it mess. Like if I don't cuss, but like I would say right now, like it effed my life up. Like
Mm.
it, like it made me it confused so many parts of my life. It made me like not trust my family and stuff because it was a family member and everything. And um I just like and it happened for years too. And I didn't tell anybody for like 10 years because I felt like so ashamed and so embarrassed. And I realized that like when I finally came out and talked to my parents about it when I was like 16, um, I felt like even more ashamed of the fact that I didn't go to them for so long. Like I was holding on to this burden for so long when I could have just let it out and like start the healing process a lot sooner. Um, and I don't know. I just like I wish for like that time that I could have just gone back and gone to my parents and like I said, start the healing process sooner. So when I look back and I like just think about like my 6 year old self that was like stuck in that place that was just felt so ashamed. I always find myself telling her like you'll be okay, like you'll be okay. Because I was so worried. I had so much anxiety about the future because of the things that like those incidences like caused me so much confusion, like with sexuality wise, just about my life in general, like questioning if it's even worth living, sort of thing. Um, and I just always lived this anxiety, like, what if I'm not going to be enough, for this world, for anybody, for God. So I just like when I think back about my little self, I'm like, you're gonna be okay. Like you're gonna be okay, especially because I see where I'm at right now in the season of life, and I'm like, you finally made it to God. You finally laid your life down to Him, and like God's always good, and now you're living in His peace, and you're relying on His strength, and it's only gonna go up for here, even if it doesn't look like it's going good. God's always good. So yeah,
Amazing. Thank you so much.
yes,
Boss, this has been a pleasure. Thank you.
yes. I really do appreciate. You have no idea like how much it means to me being able to talk vulnerably like this, without judgment, not even just